Greetings all, and welcome to Lucas Brews. In this inbox review, we'll be taking a little look at Hasegawa's Type 22 and Type 32 model A6M3 Zeroes. Since I've previously done a inbox review of the A6M2B, and it pretty much is the exact same tooling as these aircraft as well, we're going to be mainly focusing on the differences between this and the earlier model Zeroes, and how Hasegawa have captured them. So if you want a more thorough look at how these kits go together in terms of their assembly guide and also some of the common parts, then go check out the other Zero video I've done. But without further ado, let's have a close look at the differences between the Type 22, 32 and the earlier Type 21. So starting out with the box, the artwork features two profiles of some aircraft included in this kit, and being the Iwakuni Flying Group Combo, we have a Model 32 and a Model 22 Zero. The 32 Zero being the one that introduced the Sake 21 engine and also had clipped wings to slightly improve its speed and dive performance, although this ended up costing the aircraft its maneuverability and more importantly its range, so pretty quickly they developed the Model 22, which went back to having the longer wings and ailerons as well as adding some extra fuel tanks. On the bottom here we have it mentioning that we have two kits included, but it then also goes on to say it contains parts for one model, so that's a little bit of a contradiction, and it also mentions that paint and glue are not included, but there are instructions in various other languages. The sides of the box just feature a repeat of the two profiles, and on the very top here we have some of the dimensions, one for each type of Zero, with the wingspan being slightly shorter on the 32, and then the other things like barcodes, a product number of 00949, and some other things that unfortunately I can't read because they're in Japanese. As is typical for Hasegawa, there's nothing on the bottom of the box, so we'll go ahead and open this one up. So taking the top off, we have two plastic bags here which contain our separate parts, and as you can see they're pretty similar to the other Hasegawa Zero we've previously looked at, but we'll take a closer look at some of the differences. Then underneath that we have two sets of instructions, one for the Model 22 and one for the Model 32, and we have a single sheet with our decals. So all three of these instructions are pretty similar. The only main difference between the 22 and 32s compared to the 21s is, of course, it's got the history for the Model 32 and, well, 22. Assembly of the aircraft is pretty much exactly the same as what we saw with the Model 21, so I won't go into too much detail. The only difference I can see between these two is the Model 32 obviously has the clipped wings and the Model 22 has the longer ones. The painting guide is, though, fortunately put in this corner here, along with the sprue map, so it's a little bit more nicely laid out than the Model 21. So these two A6M3s and then the Type 21 have pretty much the exact same identifying letters for the sprues, which is kind of cool because you can see which ones are common and which ones are used for each particular aircraft. But as you can see, they both share the same C sprue with all of the common sort of parts. But the Model 32 and 22 have a different sprue for the fuselage, as well as a different one for the engines, although they have the same ones. And the Model 22 has a rather large number of wings with the two different underside ones here, and the 32 has its own set with the clipped wings. The marking guides are pretty similar to other Hasegawa kits, and it looks like we get two markings with each aircraft. So we've got two markings options for the Type 22, both of which are, of course, from the Iwakuni Flying Group and from 1943. So I've either got 159, which appears to be done in the green camouflage, or we have the other aircraft here, 138, which is done in the light grey. Markings are pretty simple, with pretty much just the roundels, the aircraft's number on the tail there, and then in both cases they appear to have the yellow trim on the front. I think the Iwakuni Flying Group were basically based in the home islands and mainly did training until the very end of the war, so I don't think these particular Zeros were actually involved in too much combat. The Model 32's markings are both done in light grey, which makes sense because I believe they were done in a pretty short period of time. So I don't think they ever left the factory in that green, although they did sometimes get it applied in the field. But in this case, both of them are in the light grey, and it's either aircraft 129 or 125. Having a look at the Model 32's parts that were in its bag, you can see we've got the exact same set of clear parts and sprue C from the other A6M2B Zero we looked at previously, so I won't look at these too closely. The most notably different sprue with the Model 32 is of course going to be the wings, which as you can see are quite short compared to the other Zeros, with I think the aileron basically being cut a rib short and then the tip of the wing sort of squared off. Similar to the other Hasegawa Zero we looked at, we've got recessed panel lines that are quite shallow, but they are quite cleanly done as well, so that's not too bad, with some raised details for the ribbing in the ailerons, And they've also done the notable bulge in the cannon area, which was on Model 32 Zeroes to fit the cannon's ammunition. Otherwise, though, a lot of the features are the exact same, with the holes drilled out for the cannons and the pitot tube. Some nice details inside the wheel well, although they are quite shallow. Moving on to the fuselages, I've got the Model 21 Zeroes fuselage right here to compare things to. So it looks like the surface detail is pretty much the exact same, with recessed panel lines once again with raised fabric detailing. Holding the engines up to each other, it looks like the front of the fuselage is a little bit shorter on the Model 22 and 32 fuselage, which makes sense because I believe the Sake 21 engine was a bit heavier, so they ended up shifting it further back to keep the center of gravity where it should be. We've also got slightly different cowlings here for the machine guns, but they are quite similar. The main difference is it looks like on the 21s they're a bit more bulgy and raised, whereas on the 32s the barrels sort of stick out a bit more and they appear to be a little bit lower and deeper. We also appear to have no radiator or intake scoop, which makes sense because the 21s was under the cowling, but it's not in the 32. But instead we have this strange piece, which I'm not exactly sure is what it's for. Insides of the fuselages are pretty much exactly the same, with only a bunch of ejection pin marks and no actual internal detail, so otherwise pretty similar to the other Hasegawa kits. As for the engine cowling, as you can see on the earlier Zero, the machine guns sort of have that whole ridge drilled out, whereas on the 32 it's not, it's sort of a bit more smooth, and the intake has been moved from underneath the engine cowling to sort of inside of it. The engine cowlings are also a bit longer on the Model 32, as you can just sort of make out there. And I think the cow flaps are also slightly larger, or at least they should be. So yeah, details are pretty similar though, otherwise, again with recessed panel lines, very shallow, but still at least they're nice and crisp. It appears the Model 22's bag has been partially damaged or opened, but being a second-hand kit, I'm not too unsurprised. But fortunately, it looks like everything else is here. So again, we've got the exact same sort of common sprue with the finer parts. We've got the same fuselage parts that we saw with the Model 32 that are slightly shorter. And of course, the engine cowling is also the same. However, we've got two sprues with different wings here. And I believe we only use this one here, which is on a separate rack with Model 22 on it. So yeah, that's the one. As for this one, it looks like it's common to the 21, 22, and the 11, but I believe we only use the upper surface, whereas this is for the earlier Zeroes. And it looks like the only difference I can see straight away is the arrangement of the cannon barrels there, with that bulge there for, again, the 20mm cannon ammunition. Otherwise, though, pretty similar to the other Zero. I don't see any additional sort of access hatches or things, so yeah, I think that's basically the only difference that Hasegawa have modelled. Lastly, to look at from this kit, we of course have our decals, and again, they're pretty similar to other Hasegawa kits. These ones appear to have a copyright of 2009, although I believe this kit was first issued in 2010, so these could be up to 16 years or so old, and fortunately they haven't yellowed, which I know that Hasegawa decals do have a tendency to seem to do rather aggressively. The markings, as mentioned, are a little bit bland, but given that I'll be using both of these aircraft for my Milne Bay film, I'm probably going to have my own custom tail numbers and things used, but there's a good chance I'll still use the common roundels and stencils in this kit. So that wraps up my look at the Hasegawa A6M3 Type 22 and 32 Zeroes in the Iwakuni Flying Group Combo. So naturally, being pretty much the exact same tooling, it's got the same strengths and weaknesses of the A6M2B I've previously looked at from Hasegawa as well. So it's nice and affordable with some pretty decent details, and there's lots of different variations that have been released in other combo sets with different markings, so there's a good bit of variety. It's definitely outclassed by the Tamiya A6M3 Zeroes, although it's a little bit more affordable and simple, so good for beginners and anyone on a budget, or if you're after a lot of Zeroes, it's also probably a cheaper option to go with rather than trying to get the same number of Tamiya Zeroes. I will also add, it's nice that Hasegawa have covered not only the A6M2B like Airfix, but they've also gone ahead and done other variants of the Zero, such as these ones, as well as the A6M5, and I think they've even done some early pre-World War II era Zeroes that were used in sort of China. And although it's probably not quite as good as the Airfix Zero in terms of details, it's still nice and simple and readily available. And I'm very much looking forward to having a build of these two for my upcoming Milne Bay film, and definitely doing a few upgrades to see if I can push them a little bit further. Thank you very much for watching this little inbox review. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any future videos. And feel free to share your impressions or experiences you've had with this kit or other Zeroes in the comments below. A massive thank you to my wonderful patrons for helping me to fund buying this kit, and also the products I use when I make them and the time I spend making these videos, so thanks for helping make it all possible. I'll also be taking a look at the older tooling of the Zero that Hasegawa released in a future video, and I've got build videos and also some STL files I'll be releasing on my cults page over the next couple of weeks, so there'll be plenty that's coming. That's it for now, but until the next video, as always, take care and model on.